You're listening to Experience, a social commentary by Anubhav. Have you ever been told that beauty lies in the eye of the beholder and thought to yourself, well, probably, but some things are surely uglier than others, and some people are surely more attractive than others? If consensus is used in economics, politics, and sociology as a tool to decide what is more correct, why does beauty seem to fall out of this discussion? There seems to be a common perception that beauty standards are subjective and vary across cultures, though in reality, beauty seems to be a combination of both subjective and objective factors. This is a very important subject of scrutiny because of the many benefits that studies have shown are available to attractive people over unattractive people. In women, beauty is associated with upward economic mobility. Attractive people have more dates than less attractive people. People who have dated more attractive individuals report being more satisfied with their dates. There also exists a what is beautiful is good stereotype. Further, attractive people are more likely to be higher than less attractive individuals. Attractiveness can influence judgments about the seriousness of committed crimes and even lead to lower bails. Broadly, attractive people appear to be leading more favorable lives. This does not mean that the supposedly attractive people are sure to be true to those stereotypes, but it would definitely result in people approaching them with a positive bias. For the sake of this discussion, it is that positive bias that contributes to their success. It is this positive bias that can significantly impact how you showcase your merit. Getting your foot in the door is often the only determinant or deterrent for you to achieve something. This brings us to the subject of today's discussion. Can this attractiveness be achieved in order to lead a favorable life? Can we just travel someplace where our current appearance is considered ideal and reap the benefits of this positive bias? In reality, the data suggests that various facets of beauty are actually common across cultures. This view has only solidified over time. The narrative that all women are capable of being pretty, although optimistic, is fairly recent. Now, I don't want to limit this discussion to just women. A lot of this applies to men as well. But since it is common knowledge that men respond more greatly to the visual stimulus, a lot of this discussion will inadvertently focus on women. The discussion about men responding more to the visual stimulus is a discussion we will have in detail on another day. Commonly, there also exists the narrative that cosmetic companies and Instagram influencers have pushed the social idea of what's appealing to suit an ideal of their choosing. The classical notion of beauty and attractiveness seem to be more on the lines of fertility and good health for their ideal offspring bearer. The advent of makeup, etc., have definitely made some lines blurry. But surprisingly, the ideals that makeup and grooming seem to cater to have great overlaps with what was earlier considered desirable. Some examples are symmetry, sexual dimorphic shape cues, averageness, skin color, skin texture, and cues to personality. The physicist David Bosch summed this up rather aptly. I quote, beauty has both a subjective and objective part. Human aesthetic judgment is a complicated mixture of genetic, cultural, and objective factors. If you look at paintings from centuries ago, you will find that women tend to be considered heavier than what we now consider to be ideal. That can neither be objective nor genetic, so it must be cultural. Our preference for symmetry is probably related to our preference for healthy mates. Many diseases and deformities make people less symmetrical, so that one could be genetic. Our knowledge of the nature of objective beauty is still primitive. We cannot reliably distinguish between objective and subjective beauty, certainly not by just looking. Things that meet aesthetic preferences built into our brains or instilled by culture look just as beautiful to us as those that are objectively beautiful. Here, the lines between objectivity and subjectivity in relation to beauty seem to be pretty blurred, and that seems to be fairly accurate, even relatable. In the day and age of social media, a lot of these lines seem to be blurred. It's not that the lines are more blurred now than they earlier were, it's just that the blurred lines are given more of a platform now than they earlier were. Let's say a 70% majority of people in India believe trait X is attractive. On social media, if there is a page that caters to Indian people who find the lack of trait X attractive, the page could be representing the remaining 30% very well, making something look like the norm. This is perhaps how echo chambers are created, and also how seemingly unlikely standards end up looking like the norm. Surely, if a page has 30,000 followers, it has some amount of legitimacy, it has some amount of accuracy in society. And to take that social segment in isolation really does blur these lines, or at least it makes these blurred lines look far more apparent than they earlier would. An important evolutionary element to put into focus is also the fact that men have different sexual motivations that are catered to by different traits, though some might overlap. A man might look forward to some traits in explicit images online, but fail to appreciate those very traits in his partner. More on this angle another time, though. This notion of beauty lies in the eye of the beholder seems common in the realm of architecture and art too. If you were a property developer, wouldn't it help you to push the idea that beauty is somehow overrated and your concrete mess is no less artful than the Big Ben? If you were an artist capable of no more than pouring a bucket of paint onto a canvas, wouldn't you benefit from this argument, undermining the skill and patience required to master brushstrokes and mixing of colors? Perhaps this might be more easy to grapple with in comparison to the beauty of people, because of our want to not treat people differently for how they look, something they have very little control over. It can be reasonable to consider that an ideal to strive towards and accept that there's little benefit in reducing the worth of people to their mere physical appearance, but that's not a reason to reject our biological predispositions. Do we really need to hide behind the presumption that this is not natural in order for us to say that it is not moral? On a more optimistic note, there are several other characteristics that invite positive biases in the eyes and minds of beholders, and there's no reason to just focus on one arena in ignorance of the others. Factors like grooming, body language, posture, etc., are positive contributors that impact perception, which are very much within our realm of control. This is a complex question, surely, that has yielded fairly complex answers. What do you think about beauty standards? How do your experiences factor in beauty standards? Do they at all? Why? Why not? Leave a comment on my YouTube or Instagram to help open up a gateway to dissecting this thought more fully.